All right, let's go. Hello. Let's go through the defense replays for this Light Dark season. I updated it. I think I mentioned that I missed the first. I messed up a bit on the first day with this first match here. This was the old. I guess it's not really old. It's just changed. This was the defense before I took out Claude pretty much because he was doing nothing. So I just took him out. And it, of course, took the loss. This was the one I was talking about with the ice situation or the terrain effect. I guess probably the ice is probably, what am I trying to say here? Well, the terrain situation, because it's not just ice. It's also or at least Fjorm's ice. It's also the water terrain and the stone... the water terrain and it's really the water terrain and the ice terrain. The stone terrain to an extent, but that's really like for AoEs and specials. But you can still get around that by just doing more damage. But the water terrain and the ice terrain inhibit movements. I guess the fire terrain falls into that category as well, but we don't have a unit yet that just lays down the flame terrain, on end turn or movement or action. So we don't have that yet. There is Winter Edelgard, but she has to attack. The flame terrain isn't really like a hindrance just yet in the way that the ice terrain is. And I guess you could say the same for the water terrain because it's only on one unit who isn't very good. But I can see that being given out to another unit sometime near in the future. I can see that happening. So eventually I can see that being on some type of Hector, attuned Hector type unit where they end action and they lay down the water terrain because it is very strong in terms of the effects that it has. I think it blocks warping and something else, and also the grass terrain. But that's really like just warping related. If your team is heavily focused on warping, then that can be a problem. So they took a pot shot here at Tree Man. Didn't really do much aside from activate the defense, which works out in their favor because of what I was mentioning in the previous video, because as you can see there, they have the ice terrain from Fjorm put down. Now, there is a obvious target here that they could have, taken out, but Loki decided to use Restore instead of breaking the block right in front of Claude. And then Edelgard decided to break just the wrong block, and she could have reached it because Pathfinder was there. If the defense had broken that block, we could have gotten towards taking out Claude, because my Claude would have been able to attack the enemy Claude, and we would have gotten at least one more KO off of that. But defense AI is just stupid. Like it's really dumb. But we do our best with it. Just hoping that it does something cool with the setup that we put together. I had to swap out Claude anyway, so I guess in the end it really didn't matter. Just another example of Claude not doing anything, because he also could have broken one of the ice blocks, but just not doing anything at all. Claude completely useless all season, and the previous season he did KO like a few units, but trash. I benched him. I literally benched him. I moved him to the reserves because I'm just sick of seeing his face. Waiting for Wind Tribe Claude to get a refine so we can finally have a good Claude in the game, because that Claude was actually really good. But Claude slander aside, you'll see the new defense in a little bit. The opponent here did very well in I don't know how using the terrain to their advantage. I've never used the Fjorm terrain to that extent since I've been using her in AR. It doesn't occur to me to do that. Also, a lot of the times I don't have the patience to go all the way up and break the duo's hindrance. So, there's also that. But that is actually a really good application of the ice terrain, and I'm surprised that I don't see more of it happening in Aether raids, because barring Lin Ring aside and Lin herself, there isn't really a way to get through that unless your defense breaks all of the ice. Fjorm's ice terrain is definitely the strongest version of it. The one that's on Ice Lock and what's her face, Brave Robin. It's decent, but it's just one block, and when you break it, you can get around, and there's even space for you to warp into if you have someone that can warp. So it's not necessarily the scariest thing, but Fjorm's ice terrain is actually very, very strong, and as you can see here, it gave them like 2 turns just to free snipe my units and essentially just get my defense to move out of position, and it worked out really well for them. Because of that, they were able to actually clean things up here. Sakura, is there, but not really doing too much. It's really Bernadetta who's putting down the majority of the damage output here, which is great to see because she is like one of my favorite Brave units in general. I think she's going to age really well. Damage output might fall off a little bit, but that's really just like for tanks when it comes to taking out armored units, fire saves and stuff. But everything else, I think she'll be really great. The thing about her that's going to age really well is the flat Canto 3. That's really, really strong. Like Canto 2, Canto used to be good, and then Canto 2 on Yuri when he came out was like insane. But Canto 3, it's insane, man. It's really good, especially on a ranged unit. And the fact that she's always going to run away and or have the option to just get back to her starting position. It's basically Canto Recall without the Canto Recall. It's going to age really well. I don't see that going south anytime soon, which is interesting to see what thought occurs. It's going to be interesting to see what they give to Winter Bernadetta for her refine. If it's going to be anything like what Brave Bernadetta can do. If that's the case, then Winter Bernadetta might be back to an extent. If at least the Canto 3, of course she'll have more damage because I don't have a ton of green range nukes, like fast options. So I would definitely invest if Bernadetta turned out to be good in that regards. Mage in particular, the only Bernadetta, Micaiah is the only one that really comes to mind. And then of course Gris, who I am still trying to figure out where to use him, but I do intend to use Gris quite a bit because he's really, really fun. But there we go, that was that match. Here's the new defense. The only change, as I mentioned, was Claude's gone. I really couldn't figure out how to put it together, like what units to use. The main reason that this defense was losing was because of the Bolt Tower, which Ather was the immediate resolution that came to mind. So that's why she's here. Positioning her was really tough in terms of where to place her, because I can't put her in the front. Well, I could have, but then the range didn't feel right. And then where would I have put Edelgard, who is really the main damage dealer here, which means that Rhea is not benefiting from the Divine Nectar, which, negative or positive, I wasn't sure of how that would pan out at the early stages of the defense, but I really wanted Tree Man to at least be covered. And as you can see through a lot of as you will see throughout a lot of these replays, the Divine Nectar flat damage reduction as well as the healing really helped him to survive a lot of combats. And a lot of people just queued in, tried something out, and then realized that it just wasn't going to work, and then left because of just how tanky he is. Shield Fighter just doing a fantastic job in walling out the opponent. Attuned Alm would need 2 hits to be able to take out this Tree Man. With the bonus stats and everything and the Divine Nectar, he would have needed both hits, which means that Tree Man would have been able to counterattack. So that wouldn't have been a winnable matchup unless you had like a really invested Alm and Windsweep. Windsweep would have been the solution. If Tree Man can't counterattack against Attuned Alm, he's probably gonna die. So there's that. And also the miracle would have meant that Alm without Windsweep would have died, because there definitely would have been the counterattack to come. And then Briar would have just absolutely destroyed him. So Really strong combination. I went with interesting tech here on Ather, and Occultist Strike, Ruptured Sky. I don't know if this is the best thing, but seeing her, like, you'll see her a little bit later on actually take out a Neathauger with the combination, and I was quite surprised by it. So I'll keep this particular combination for a bit just to see, what it's like. I'll play around it a bit more. I was considering going with the Goose Friend, but she really isn't like set up to be an enemy phase ranged unit. She does have the stats to tank other ranged threats. Typically she can survive and dish out damage, but I really wanted her to offer something in the player phase, which is why I went Ruptured Sky, Lagoose, Occultist Strike. I was thinking of, like, if I had Fatal Smoke Fodder, of course I would have done that, but I just don't have that available. So, we just use what is available. And then I gave her the Close Combat. In the scenario where she just somehow needed it for help, it would have been there. Somehow she got exposed, she would have it. And I think overall it partnered better than having the A skill that she had, which was, come on brain, do your thing. What are you thinking about? Crystalline Water. There we go. Yeah, so I felt like the close bonus doubler worked a bit better for Hathorn, especially with the stat. It just gave her more stats overall, I feel like. But yeah, it's still to be seen if it's like the better build. I don't know, but for this season, it seemed to be okay. And the rest of this is just the Edelgard show. Edelgard, Valentine's Edelgard just doing her thing. She does it very well. Didn't really miss kill. She doesn't miss kills, which is really great. I was actually trying to figure out if I could get her partnered up with Winter Edelgard on the same defense, but the ranges just wouldn't coalesce in a way that made sense, so I abandoned that idea. I think for some parts of this recording, I was starting to fall asleep. I don't know if it was here or later on, but there's some awkward pauses. You'll notice them. But yeah, a lot of opponents queued in, as I said, tried to figure out what they could do, realized that nothing was happening, and then just backed out because Shield Fighter, really, really strong. From all indications, it looks like a lot of people just skipped that Attuned Alm banner. I'm just not seeing that much of him. Negatives around him, him being not that great. I guess I have to admit I contributed to that propaganda just a little bit. But yeah, not seeing a ton of him, which is surprising. Fatal Smoke on, or rather Incurable Staff on Loki here. Not quite sure if it really contributed to me being able to, put in work on this Neathauger here, but I mean, it's there. It allows Loki to attack and actually inflict the Fatal Smoke if there's a situation where I would have needed it. And I was really surprised in this particular, defense here where Hathorn was able to survive against the enemy Neathauger. That was actually pretty pog, but I think that's probably the close bonus doubler actually getting benefits out of it. And then the Divine Nectar here took over, allowing Edelgard to get the extra action and just be a menace. Without that, we would have had to go another turn, which would have not been great. But yeah, this is typically what you need, man. You need someone that can take out at least 3 units on the enemy team to force them to surrender. You don't want them to think about sack playing. You want to hit them and hit them hard so that they don't even consider sack playing. And I don't know what other I think the days where you send out a unit to only get 1 kill, I think those days are just over. And that's the thing about Dancer traps as well. That's the thing about, I forgot to show you the builds. So it's nothing crazy. These are I think the most interesting one is Loki with the Incurable Staff, which is available from someone in the healer pool. I forget who it is, but someone has it. I think it's a good tech option on her specifically for this miracle meta that we're in, but outside of that, probably don't really want to run it. Get someone that has the effects that can be inflicted, like, well, there really aren't that many options. I mean, you have Hathrun, Hearthvulgar, Fallen Julia, and I can't think of who the rest are. Not that many, to be honest. Aside from that, you probably have to go with the this Fatal Smoke skill, which is also really rare. Really rare. But yeah, that aside, I was saying, yeah, dancers and how. Deflect Missile here coming in clutch. Dancers and how, because if it's just a one hit, he's likely to survive, and that's what you had happening here, because he got the miracle support, and she didn't even get through to the miracle. She didn't get him to 1 health, so he's a lot tankier than I would have imagined with the shield fighter. And then they go with the ice play here. Yeah, I think they just gave up because they realized that they couldn't really do anything. But yeah, I was saying the days of, one of the reasons why I think the days of having a dancer try to follow up and dance are kind of over, and it's more in line to having a unit that can just contribute multiple actions. Because with all the Kanto that is available on our ranged melee, our offensive nukes, with all the Kanto that's available on them, it's highly unlikely that the dancer is going to be, not just Kanto, but threat range and mobility and all those things. It's highly unlikely that the dancer is going to be able to get into position to be able to dance your primary offensive nuke. So it's better. You're better off to just have the multiple actions on someone like a Valentine's Edelgard. The hard part is just how do you get her to get in, and a lot of times that falls into Celica Ring territory, where you just have her warp in, but then also that can also be countered by, you know, terrain effects, gatekeeper, stuff like that. So it's difficult to balance the two.
Your story is over.
It's really hard, man, to fit a dancer in and expect to get anything out of that dance, because the dancers are typically going to dance the units that's locked, and then secondary, it's going to be someone that's rallied, so you like a rally trapper or something. And those are like so inconsistent in terms of building them, because you essentially have to use a unit that is not going to cancel away after they rally, and there just aren't that many of those options. Again, the majority of the units that are like powerful offensive nukes also have some type of cancel in their weapon that allows them to run away after doing a rally or attacking or something like of that nature. So trying to get the dancer to do the dance thing, it's just like so difficult.
I am grateful.
So I don't know what they're going to do to have dancers have the mobility to keep up with the ranged nukes that we currently have in the game. It can't be Wings of Mercy dependent, because I've tried that. I've tried the Wings of Mercy Echo and the Wings of Mercy 4 to get your, let's say Valentine's Edelgard goes in and then almost dies. How? But let's say she goes in and almost dies, but she survives because miracle or 50%, and then the expectation is that your dancer would then go in and dance Edelgard, and then she can, you know, get some additional actions going after that, or at least one extra. The majority of the times when I tried to do that, what happened was that the dancer with Wings of Mercy Echo or Wings of Mercy 4, let's cut some more here. Ooh, so these are the last couple of matches. These went by pretty quickly. But yeah, the dancer with Wings of Mercy 4, I went to sleep and woke up and then re-recorded these. Because some more came in, and I spent like the whole day trying to. This is a fantastic Lucina that I think will age very well because of her swap. I think she actually used 3 units that actually use the tech good. 2 of them are Lucina, and one is the other one is a dragon that's green. 3 units, but yeah. What was I saying before? Sidetrack. Stick to a topic. Man. Oh, what was I saying before? Oh, right, the Wings of Mercy thing with the dancers. So yeah, a lot of times what would happen is that the dancer would come in with Wings of Mercy Echo or Wings of Mercy 4, and they would attack instead of dancing, which is horrible decision making by the AI. I guess you could probably swap out the weapon, but that also, because a lot of times, these days, the dancers that we're getting all have really powerful weapons, or all have some type of effect tied to their weapons that you actually want to be getting. Like Peony has the drive, attack, speed, all that, and the healing, and then Plumeria has, all of her stuff. Triandra has her reins in her weapon. So there's just so much stuff in the weapons these days that on equipping a dancer's weapon, I don't see why you would do that just to get the benefit of the dance. They're at this point combat units themselves. They're so powerful. You can use them as like offensive nukes themselves. Like my Triandra, my +10 Triandra is very powerful. You can use her. I use her to initiate these days. And here's another Lucina OG. Not gonna be doing much, but I love the faithfulness to the unit. I would never do this. I have a really invested Hannah, and I don't even bring her into any game modes anymore because she just dies. Not instantly, but she just dies and she fails to do any damage. It's really annoying. We need a new arcane sword to help us out with stats, first of all, and damage output. So, I don't know. I've been considering just foregoing the Laguz friend builds and just giving Speed Taker to all of my infantry god swords just so that they can do damage. It's annoying. But yeah, don't know how dancers are going to get back into the meta at this point. They're good for offense, but on defense, I don't really see a way for them to fit in because they don't contribute to the action economy of the team in a positive way. And I mean, even units that are going to be locked, some of them can just reactivate themselves, like a baby dual Robin, who can, when you rally on her, she just gains back her action. So I don't know, the game doesn't seem to be heading in a space that is going to be conducive of allowing dancers to be great, which is weird because we're still getting more dancers. So what are we going to be doing with these dancers in the future, especially since a lot of them just have not been getting weapon refined? So I don't know why IS keeps doing this. At least give them some combat refine so that they can actually, do some work. I really wonder what they're going to do with Harmonic Azura's refine when it comes around, because she's not a bad unit, to be honest. She has some potential. It's really just down to how they treat her, and her dual button is actually really, really good. So I hope she doesn't get the Sigurd treatment, which was actually pretty gross. But yeah, that's pretty much all the matches for this week. One loss, or I guess 2 losses if you count the one where I didn't swap it. GG's. See you next week.